I had 2 weeks to prepare my house for a teenager, a 15-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so that happened, and I met them and did one visit, and then the next day they moved in. And so just learning their different needs and being able to work full time and be a single mom was really challenging.
This is the How She Moms podcast with Whitney Archibald. I'm a mother of 5 on a mission to help moms connect with your kids, manage your homes, and create your own unique version of motherhood. I curate ideas from different moms so you can pick and choose what works for you and your family. Before we get too deep into this episode, I want to introduce you to a new sponsor for the show, Smart for Life. When I was a busy teenager, I remember wishing there was a magic pill I could take to replace a meal on those days I just didn't have time to sit down and eat. Luckily, by the time I became a busy mom, protein bars were invented for those times when you just have to eat on the go. Now that I'm well into motherhood, bars have come a long way. I've tried them all, and I'm so happy to have discovered a new go-to bar, Smart for Life. My 15-year-old son and I were searching for a bar that was filling, gluten-free, uses ingredients we can pronounce, and most importantly was not loaded with sugar. He eats his as a pick-me-up after workouts. I usually end up eating one to replace either breakfast or lunch while I'm out and about. Smart for Life also sells cookies, shakes, soups, and other products. If you'd like to give them a try, head to smartforlife.com and use the code HowSheMoms with no spaces to get a 20% discount off your order. I know Kathleen Stout from my hometown. She was several years younger than me, but I remember her because her family made such a big impact on our little community. Her dad was a judge and her mom was a school counselor, and the whole family just exuded love and kindness. Kathleen continues that pattern in her own life, now a school counselor herself. I called her last fall when I heard about her unique and very sudden transition to motherhood. Last year, I heard about Kathleen's sudden and very unique transition to motherhood, and I just knew I needed to talk to her on the podcast. We had a great conversation about her transition to motherhood, her role as a mother to children in the community before she became a mom herself, and how her training as a counselor has helped her meet the specific needs of her kids. I started by asking her how she found out she was going to be a mom.
I was in Scotland visiting my college roommates that live over there, and I got a call that one of my students was placed into foster care. And I had started the foster care process, but I hadn't been approved quite yet. But they asked me in Scotland if I would take the student in, and I got home and I said, sure. And then they said, oh, and by the way, she comes with a little brother who's 3. And I said, oh, okay. And so at that time, it was just going to be a short-term kind of placement. And then I got home. I had 2 weeks to prepare my house for a teenager, a 15-year-old and a 3-year-old. Yeah, so that happened, and I met them and did one visit, and then the next day they moved in.
Wow,
And,
talk about a sudden change.
Yeah, so at that time it was going to be with foster care, the whole point is to reunify with family, and unfortunately their mother did not do the plan as recommended, and she terminated her parental rights last December, and then they became open for adoption, and so I was able to finalize adoption for both kids on June 15th.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to start foster care in the first place?
I don't know really, but I kind of always had a calling to help for older kids. I work at a high school, and so the troubled youth always have taken my heart, and I worked at some group homes in Spokane, Washington when I was in school, and saw the need for permanency, and just one caring person can change a kid's life. I wasn't able to do Inyo County foster care because my dad was the juvenile court judge, and so it would be a conflict of interest. but I always said I would do it when I turned 35 because I was old enough from an 18-year-old, if I got placed with an older kid, there would be that age gap. And it just turned out my dad retired in May and I turned 35, in October of that year. And so I started the process.
That's perfect. That's great.
And then I got the kids in August. So it worked out perfectly.
That's cool. So you already had a relationship with this girl?
I had actually she was a sophomore and I had only met, I had talked to her, but she was very quiet and not into talking to people, if you know what I mean. So, so I had only really had 2 conversations with her. I knew her, but I didn't know her. So.
Yeah. So what was that like to transition to motherhood straight into teens? Well, a teenager and a 3-year-old, those are 2 of the 2 kind of challenging stages of life.
Yeah. I think the first year I was in total shock and denial almost, that just like survival mode.
Yeah.
Because because of foster care kids, they have years of trauma usually to enter into the care. And so I as a counselor, you think you're all prepared, you can deal with the toughest kids and you know what their lives were like. But it was very eye-opening and challenging because I had to learn a whole different set of skills. Like it's totally different being able to counsel somebody in a counseling setting compared to living with them 24/7. And so we did a lot of therapy with both kids, but just adjusting to both the age gaps too was very hard, and it's still very hard because they have different interests, different skill set, and there's also another brother, 15, that is placed in another home in a good, loving relationship, but the older kids had too much, we call it trauma bond between themselves, that it was an unhealthy environment to have all 3 together.
Okay.
And so just learning their different needs, and being able to work full time and be a single mom was really challenging the first year. But then by the second year, it became a lot easier. I have an amazing support system. I couldn't have done it without them. So
yeah. And your parents, I mean, all of a sudden you have 2 new grandkids. How's that been?
It's been great. My parents always knew my passion and they would have done it too if they could have in their jobs. But I actually live 10 doors down from them on the opposite side of the street. So my little guy rides his bike back and forth and just, loving life. And our family loves to travel and do different things. And so from the get-go, I've been able to take my daughter on trips and to see different things that she's never seen. And I always had the heart that they would probably reunify. But my parents and my sister and my niece and nephew were like, nope, they're going to be family forever.
Oh, so that's an interesting thing that I hadn't thought about, is when you're taking an existing family into your family, there's even a merging of cultures that has to happen. How have you kind of taken what both families had and merged it together to make your own healthy culture?
I would say trial by error. I don't know. With the older one, she's able to express herself and really be able to verbalize things about her culture. And my kids are Native American, and so even that, and then my family's Irish, and our different heritage, and then respecting. I guess it's just respecting everybody's wishes, and I don't know really how to answer that one.
Yeah,
it's a hard one.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's just you have to just be open to change and open to learning, because some things you would think a teenager should know right off the bat. And you're like, you don't know that? What? And um, my son didn't speak when he came to my house. He only had about 10 words. And so for him, it was hard for him to verbalize anything of his wishes. So I don't know. It's just been trial by error, and then it's keep, like, for me, I kept my heart kind of knowing that they could reunify, and but then once you get attached to the little guys, and luckily in the small community, I always knew no matter what, if they did reunify, I would be able to keep in touch with them and see them go through the school system.
Right.
Everything.
Okay. So, I mean, usually with most of these conversations I've had about transitioning to motherhood, because I'm doing a whole episode on that, we've talked a lot about identity shifts. How has that gone for you identity-wise?
It's been hard, I don't think I really noticed it the first year and stuff, and not even the second year, but when COVID hit, being a single mom now before, if COVID hit, I would have gone over to my sister's house and been the care provider and the school teacher for my niece and nephew, and they were my life, my niece and nephew, and I was the fun aunt,
Yeah.
And we would have been all isolated together, during the COVID time. But then with the two kids, I had to be here, and I had them to worry about and take care of, and we got really close, bonded a lot, as most families did. But yeah, it was just different and hard. And then a shift from going out on the weekends to hang out with my girlfriends. And I used to be the house that all the other moms would come to hang out, and
without kids.
Right. Or even with kids. Like I was the auntie, because all my friends have kids. And and now changing roles. So I don't have my monthly gatherings anymore. And I don't, we see each other on different things now, but it's definitely a role change.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to learn more about before the kids too. I love you talking about kind of the auntie role, and how even before you had children of your own, how you were still in a mother role to different children. Can you talk about how that was a part of your life?
Yeah, so I'm fortunate. 5 of my best friends in high school are back in Bishop, and they all have kids, and my niece and nephew, of course. And so from the day they were born, I've always been a part of their life, like all the kids' lives. And so if they had soccer games, I coached my godson's soccer team and my other friend Maria, 2 boys' soccer teams for the last 8 years. And so just being part of their games, their activities, their birthdays. And so if they needed a break, I would babysit or watch them, because mothers need breaks. Yeah. It takes a village to raise a family and kids. And I have the nickname Mama Stout to some of the kids at school, because a lot of my kids that I deal with do not have positive role models as mothers and do not have positive home lives. And so I've pseudo adopted a lot of my high school students and supported them in different things along the way. And one of the cool stories I have about transitioning to foster care is one of my adopted little ladies that graduated and was in college and everything, and she was a few years out, and she saw on my Facebook that I had become a foster parent. And so she sent me a card, and with a $50 Amazon card in it, gift card. And she said, "You helped me so much. I want to help you help more kids." And So it was just really sweet, and we're still really close.
My goodness,
but
you're killing me over here.
yeah, but it was just like that, if you can show the love and become moms to the other people, then, and other kids. And I think that's the thing I love the most about my job is it truly just takes one positive person in a kid's life. It doesn't have to be a bio mom. It doesn't have to be a bio family member for that matter. It just has to be somebody caring enough to take that role. And
Yeah.
that's been the best part.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of people have a calling for their own kids, or an urging, they feel like they need to have kids and they need to have a baby. And I don't know. I just never had that urge to necessarily need my own, because I feel like a lot of kids are my own, just in a different way. But yes, being an auntie or a community mom is a great feeling.
Kathleen and I then talked about what it was like to jump right into parenting with a teenager.
Parenting a teenager is hard.
Yeah.
So I had her since she was 15 and a half. And then, but there's like a lifetime of mom lessons you want to give them. And for me, one of the hardest part is being like, I got 2 years to tell you all of this stuff and train you, and hopefully she goes to college, and that's the plan. But you don't have that in the house mother role anymore. And so, it's a short time to give a lifetime worth of mothering.
Yeah. And that's going to be probably pretty hard for her brother to have her go, because she's probably been kind of a mother role to him. Yes.
Yeah. So for the first 3 years of her life, she was parentified, we call it, so she was the mother for him. And so that was another big thing we had to break almost when she moved in with me, was that parental role. We had to allow her to be a teenager again and allow her to be a kid. And so, and for me to take all the parental role in the little guy. And so we won't even though she's 17 and totally capable, or 15 at that time, we wouldn't have her babysit the little one, or I wouldn't have her deal with any of that kind of stuff.
It's so beautiful to me that Kathleen is so well equipped to mother her 2 children and help them through their trauma. Their family is thriving, and I'm so grateful to Kathleen for sharing her beautiful story and being such a loving mom to so many kids. I love that there's absolutely no formula for what motherhood looks like. Thank you for listening to the How She Moms podcast. If you like it, tell a friend. The bigger the community, the more ideas. There are lots of ways you can add your ideas to the How She Moms community. We have a Facebook group where we share ideas about upcoming topics and help each other solve problems we're facing in motherhood. You can also follow How She Moms on Instagram for quick tips and ideas. And you can go to howshemoms.com where you'll find transcripts of episodes and lots of other great resources. Special thanks to my mom, Susan Singley, for recording my theme music. She played this song all the time when I was growing up, and to me, it's the soundtrack of motherhood.